Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. So today, I want to discuss something I touched on briefly in my Star Trek episode. Is the Orville. Now, if you guys don't know what the Orville is, it's a TV show that was developed from 2017, I believe, to 2022 by Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy and American Dad fame. And Seth is a huge Star Trek nerd, and he had always wanted to do his own Star Trek series. And if you know, if you watch his other shows, obviously he has a long association with Star Trek and Star Trek actors, as Patrick Stewart is in American Dad, and he's had them guest starred. And there was an episode where Stewie kidnaps the entire cast of Star Trek Next Generation. So he is a huge Star Trek fan. And I have a friend that I was actually discussing last night about the Orville, because I was thinking about making this video, and he watched it as well, and we both discussed that Star Trek, that the Orville was a modernized take on Star Trek. It kind of took the idea of Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, but made it more realistic with the way the human race is not so much the utopia, but it had a lot of the ideals, but it wasn't so much, because if you know that Gene Roddenberry didn't want to have any conflict in the next gen, because he wanted basically everyone to be a utopia where no one fought, which makes for very interesting stories. So that's why there was conflict added, and why Gene was actually taken off as a primary writer on a lot of Star Trek episodes. So, but yeah, so for me, the Orville is a spiritual successor in the writing veins of Next Gen. A lot of the characters are even the same. You have Bortus, who is kind of the Klingon character, very male-dominated, warrior types. You have Isaac, who is the artificial intelligence, obviously very similar to Data. You have the love triangles there. You have the I look at Lamar as kind of like almost a similar to Geordi, where in the beginning of the series, Geordi was the ship's pilot, but at the end of the day, they didn't need a pilot because it was so advanced that he ended up becoming an engineering. And Lamar had that one episode where they basically realized that he was smarter than he let on, and at the end of the day, he won the engineering role. So, and obviously there was a lot of episodes that kind of mimic Star Trek Next Gen, which that's another thing I'll mention. The first series, there were a few that kind of copied the ideas of Star Trek, and that was one of the biggest criticisms in the first season was, is it supposed to be humor? Is it supposed to be a ripoff? Is it supposed to be a satire? No one really knew what to do with it, but honestly, a lot of the stories were good. Before I decided to make this video, I did a quick research, because I haven't watched the Orville in years, since it actually, the third season. So I did a quick summary of a lot of the episodes, and I remember even in the first season, they had some pretty hard-hitting episodes, like the one with Bortus's and Cliven's child. I think it's Cliven, were born a female, and in their society that they had to turn them all to male, which obviously is a huge, topic of discussion in today's world and everything else. And I remember by the third episode, that was amazing for that series. I don't know why people would think that was a horrible, stupid show, because I think they handled some pretty good topics. But then they also had the episode where Charlize Theron guest starred, where she was the time traveler to steal things to bring them back to the museum, which was the opposite of the one episode where I forget who it is, but I always call him the second dad from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And he came back as a time traveler from the past to gather stuff from the future to sell. So it was kind of the reverse, but it was the same idea. Obviously, you had Isaac on the bridge, who was trying to learn more about being human and more about humanity, which obviously in the later seasons, it was there if he was doing research to see if humanity was worth, or if anyone in the Union was actually worth keeping with the Kalons. So you had that kind of, the whole Data dynamic with him trying to learn humanity. But then you also had the episode where they found the planet where they was only available for like 11 minutes, and every time it jumped, it was 700 years, and Kelly ended up becoming their god because she saved the little girl. And I thought that was a really good episode, the way they did that, even though I know a lot of people thought it was stupid. I liked the way it was done, because all it usually takes is one miracle to start a religion like that. And how they eventually brought them back in the third season, where they had evolved 50,000 years into the future, and we're actually kind of messing with the Orville crew to see, because they were bored, basically, because they were so far advanced, they were like energy beings. But yeah, some of the other episodes I really enjoyed for that. I really enjoyed the whole Kalon storyline, which obviously covered on artificial intelligence and slavery, where the Kalons were originally developed to be subservient, and then they started actually growing sentience, and instead of accepting them as sentient robots, they put an update program where they basically made them be able to feel pain. So instead of treating them with respect, it's like a dog, you know. If you beat a dog, eventually it's going to become very aggressive, even though it doesn't want to be. And they ended up killing their masters. And when they saw them, that's what started the whole Kalon War, because they didn't believe that organics or the humanity, the Union, was worth saving. And their entire civilization was built literally on billions of bones of their organic creators underneath their cities. I also like the different time. I'm usually not a fan of time travel, but I liked the one where they brought Kelly back, and she ended up not going back out with coming back with Ed, and that caused an entire split in the time continuum where Isaac was never put on the Isaac was never put on the Orville, and the entire future became the dystopian future where they had the Kylons. They had to go back in time, and they had to fix that. I really like those dystopian episodes in science fiction. I also enjoyed the episode where Gordon was, where they found the iPhone, and he had a virtual relationship basically with the girl on the iPhone. And then when he got stuck, they brought that back. When he got stuck back in the future, or in the past, he actually had a real relationship with her. So they hit really heavy topics, but they still did some brevity with it, and I really liked it. And I know the set said he has like 10 episodes. It's not been outright canceled, and he'd like to bring it back, and I would appreciate seeing it back. But I know that a lot of the characters don't want to come back, so I don't think it'll ever happen. But if it does, I would not be upset. I think that it was a great storyline. I think it got its stride in the second season, and it was one of those shows where I was excited to see each episode. Like, I didn't like, oh, I forgot to watch this. I was waiting each week for that episode to watch, because that's how good a lot of the episodes, and even the worst episodes, were still very passable watch. I enjoyed the episodes with the Kalon, or not the Kalons, with Bortus, and I forget his species, and how they had they found the whole planet, the whole colony of the female Mocklins. That's what it was, with the female Mocklins, and they didn't realize there was actually Mocklins where the whole female Mocklin was actually way more. Oh, sorry, my leg's cramping. Were way more common than they let on. So that was, a really good episode. I enjoyed when they had the Allurans that came on and were kind of showing the guys that a woman can be strong as well. I know that they changed that one character because she left the show, and they got the other one. Sorry, my leg is cramping, so my shifting isn't as good as it should be. I swear to God, I'm a better rider than this. So I really like those ones. I like Norm Macdonald's character, Yasif. I thought he was an incredible character, and I loved how he saved the day during one of the battles. And then when they brought the whole Charlie thing in the Ensign Burke, which is another character that he or the actress was in Ted, where they brought her in, where she had her best friend, her love of her life, killed in the Kalon War. So she had that, which obviously, goes towards the whole Star Trek idea with it's slipping my name, with Cisco on Deep Space Nine hating Captain Picard because when he was Locutus, they had killed his wife, so he had a natural hatred for Picard because of that. So again, they were always taking ideas from different Star Trek episode series, and I get it. People think it's a copy of Star Trek, but you can only do so many ideas so many times. Another thing I really liked about the Orville was also the fact that they had a lot of Star Trek DNA and alumni in it. I mean, Jonathan Frakes directed a few episodes. You had Tim Russ in that episode I mentioned earlier with the time capsule cell phone. You had Robert Picardo on the episode with he was the father of the first Milana, I believe her name was, the first security officer. So you had Star Trek alumni coming back. You had them directing it. Even Brendan Baga, who's obviously, if you know Star Trek, you know that he's very heavily involved with that. He directed a few episodes. So there was so much Star Trek DNA, and obviously the Orville looked a lot like a Enterprise or Voyager. There was just so much Star Trek DNA in that show, and I think it was a very, very good homage to Star Trek as a series. And if you've never really given it a try because you think it's like a cheap knockoff, I highly recommend you try it. I believe it's done with a lot of reverence. It is probably one of the better modern science fiction shows out there, and I truly do hope it does come back. But if it doesn't, I understand why. It wasn't outright canceled by Hulu, but they didn't order any more episodes. And the fact that they brought in humor, I mean, what other show can you watch where they would have a battle cry of 9 to 5? Oh, shit. And that's why this is all done real time. That was just a cop that I didn't see. Oh boy. So yeah. So they brought in so many Star Trek concepts. They did it with reverence, and I would love to see them bring it back. If they don't, it's okay. It ended on a high note, but I love how they left it open-ended. With the marriage of Dr. Finn and Isaac, with the Kalons now being friends, and they kind of left it with the Krill being their enemies. So we'll see if that was to come back. And I also love the fact their god is named after a car rental place, Avis. So that's always, pretty funny. And that their official book and everything, and how Ed almost had a relationship with that Krill woman. So, yeah, I would recommend checking it out. Give me, if you have any more thoughts on what episodes you liked, let me know in the comments. Please, if you like these videos, I want to keep doing them. I have a lot of fun making them. You're just kind of going along the road with me while I normally talk to myself, so I'm just recording it so you guys can hear kind of the weirdness that's in my head. But feel free to like, subscribe, share, and let me know what else you guys would like to see me cover next. All right. Hope you guys have a good day.